Okay, without further ado, here we go. It's Monday, barreling towards the holidays. I don't know if or how you guys how that works for you. I know for many people, it's very much this double-edged blade. Wonderful to hang out with family, and also sometimes a nightmare to hang out with family. So, um, yeah, let's practice just sort of being with all of that in the most positive way possible. And so today, I thought I would bring up this wonderful person, a good friend of mine, Kelly Boys. She wrote a wonderful book called The Blind Spot. So, one of the secrets to accessing our inner knowledge and our inner knowing is to let go of a big collective blind spot that we share, the illusion of control. When we can do that, we can spend more time in a state of flow, taking life as it actually comes in present sight, rather than living under the mistaken impression that we can or should be able to control everything that comes our way. Now, there's a lot in here, but I think the main takeaway is this concept of a blind spot that I want us to focus on in the context of a mindfulness practice. So, purely on a mechanical level, there's some interesting stuff that goes on when it comes to our eyes and how they work and how the brain processes information. So, for example, when we see this, we're driving down the road, we see the sign. This is what our subjective experience is. We see the sign, we see the trees in the background, we see the road, and it just happens. We don't think twice about it. The interesting thing is, from a biological standpoint, or even just a purely biomechanical standpoint, this is what the eye actually has the capacity to experience. Meaning there's all this fuzzy stuff around the sort of the locus of our eyes' attention. And what happens is our eyes are constantly moving. They're constantly bouncing around so that they can pick up, they can kind of move this focused area around, so it results in this clearer image. Now, the thing that many of us don't know is that the brain is actually doing most of the heavy lifting there. So the eyes take in whatever data they can take in by dancing around and doing that, and then the eyes fill in the rest. And a lot of that is, it's a kind of illusion that the eyes create. A lot of it is influenced by past experiences of what we've seen, and so the brain is constantly interpreting things. Now, the reason for that, without getting too technical, is in the back of our eye, where the optic nerve so connects with the retina, there's an area there where there are, in fact, no receptors to collect inbound data, which is why the eyes need to constantly keep moving so that they can kind of fill things in. So we literally have a blind spot in the back of our eyes, and the brain does a pretty fantastic job of filling things in. So the reason I'm bringing that up in the context of mental health and mindfulness, it's a wonderful practical metaphor for how our brain fills in lots of blind spots that we have, be they emotional, be they narratives or stories that we tell ourselves about this person and what they're doing yet again and how they should or shouldn't be, fill in the blank. And so I thought this would be a good theme for today, is to just take a step back and maybe pose the question of where are our blind spots when it comes to not just this mechanical piece of vision here, but how much does our brain fill in based on past experiences, and can we become more aware of that happening? Because once we're aware that it might be happening, we can actually take a step back and take some corrective action. So let's go ahead and try that out for the time that we have remaining. So let's start by closing our eyes. And bringing that locus of attention inward. It's not an accident that I'm asking you to close your eyes, because, again, we want to, if we can, just reduce the amount of input that's coming into our nervous system right now. and our eyes are very dominant for most of us. Just noticing that even with closed eyes, it's not like our sense of sight disappears. It's just different. It's not dark. All kinds of lights flashing, our, our optic nerves still being activated. Just taking a step back and noticing that even with closed eyes, we see a lot. Shapes, these little amoeba-like things floating around, dancing, moving. And this is a great example of the brain continuing to process information, even though there's actually no new external information coming in through our eyes. Brain is active, it's constantly making sense of inputs. And it does an amazing job of filling in these blank spaces. So even when there's no information coming in through the eyes, you can notice that it's still active, it's still doing stuff. As we become aware of this activity, I want you to imagine that this is a beautiful metaphor for what the brain does pretty much with everything. Any situation you engage in, the brain is backfilling data. And it turns that data into a story, into a narrative. And before you know it, you're having a reaction to the person that you're speaking with, to the news that you're watching, to the pain in your knee. And the truth is, there's nothing we can do to escape this. This is just human biology. This is just the way it works. There is something magical about becoming aware this is happening all the time. So maybe think of someone in your life, maybe someone that you've interacted with this morning. See if you can take a step back and become aware of the story that you have about them, who they are, why they always do what they do, why they never do the other thing that they could or should be doing. Now, as you're watching them in your memory, see if you can become aware of this narrative as it automatically gets stitched together by the brain. maybe even become aware of how these stories, these old narratives, are creating a kind of blind spot to what is actually happening in that moment. Become aware of your story about this person. Notice how that story colors your interactions with them. And when we become aware of this automatic story and how the brain fills in the details, creates a sense of freedom and choice that we get to hit the reset button and actually meet them the way they are, what's actually happening in this moment rather than what we think is happening. And the first step is simply being aware that we all have these blind spots. It's just the way it is. And that's okay. Go ahead and take a deep breath in. Long, slow exhale through the mouth. And hold the exhale. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Another deep inhale through the nose. Slow exhale. Letting go. And hold. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go ahead, open your eyes and notice how your subjective experience immediately changes once eyes are open. And yeah, the invitation is to maybe be uh, remain vigilant and aware of possible blind spots that you're bumping into as you interact with people or life or whatever situations you find yourself in today. Hope that was helpful. Hope to see you tomorrow. Take care, everyone.